Midnight, Paris, 1943. The Gestapo agents climbed the apartment stairs in silence. On the third floor, in that small room, the young woman was still at her radio. Her fingers continued tapping out the Morse code. She had to finish this last message. There was vital intelligence that needed to reach London. The position of German troops in Normandy. Thousands of lives depended on these dots and dashes. When the sound of the door breaking echoed through the corridor, Noor Inayat Khan took a calm breath. She knew the end had come. But she was a princess with Indian blood, raised in Sufi teachings, and princesses never surrender. Let me take you back to where this extraordinary story truly begins. Moscow, January 1st, 1914. A baby girl's first cry pierces the Russian winter. Nobody in that room could imagine this child would one day become Nazi Germany's most wanted radio operator. That she would hold the entire French resistance network together with her delicate fingers on a telegraph key. Her father, Hazrat Inayat Khan, was a musician and philosopher from India's mystical Sufi tradition. He had come to Europe to spread Sufism to the West. Her mother, Ora Ray Baker, was an American writer who had fallen in love with both the man and his message. Noor was the eldest of 4 children. Born in the shadow of the Kremlin, raised in the glittering streets of Paris, the family moved to France when Noor was still young. They settled in a house called Fazal Menzil in Suresnes, near Paris. The house became a center for Sufi teaching, where musicians, poets, and seekers gathered to learn about universal brotherhood and peace. Think about that for a moment. This girl, who would become a spy, was raised in an atmosphere of complete nonviolence. Ahimsa, her father called it, the principle of harming no living creature. Noor couldn't even kill insects. Her siblings would tease her as she carefully carried spiders out of the house, as she walked around ant colonies rather than through them. Her father taught her that all life was sacred, that violence was the lowest form of human expression, that love and compassion were the only true strengths. These weren't just pretty words in the Khan household. They were lived principles, daily practice, the foundation of existence. When Noor was 13, her world shattered. Her father died suddenly in India, leaving the family emotionally and financially devastated. At 13 years old, Noor became the pillar supporting her grieving mother and younger siblings. She studied at the Sorbonne, taking courses in child psychology. She played the harp with fingers that would one day tap out coded death sentences for Nazi installations. She wrote children's stories, filled with gentleness and wonder. Her book, 20 Jataka Tales, was published in 1939, bringing ancient Buddhist stories to English children. Can you imagine? This delicate writer of children's stories would soon be crawling through French sewers to avoid Nazi patrols. Those same hands that illustrated tales of kindness would learn to assemble explosives in the dark. Everything changed in June 1940. Nazi tanks rolled down the Champs-Élysées. The swastika flew from the Eiffel Tower. Paris, the city of light, fell into darkness. Noor and her family escaped to England on one of the last boats out of Bordeaux. They watched from the deck as France disappeared into the morning mist. Her mother wept. Her siblings stood in shocked silence. But Noor made a decision. In London, under the bombing raids, she asked herself a question that would define the rest of her short life. Does the principle of non-violence mean standing by while evil triumphs? Does pacifism require passivity in the face of oppression? No. Her father's true teaching was this: standing against injustice is the highest virtue. Sometimes, to preserve peace, one must fight those who destroy it. November 1940. Noor joined the Women's Auxiliary Air Force, the WOA, but she didn't want to be a pilot. She chose to become a radio operator. Why? Because words were her weapons. Her father had told her that words were the music of the soul. Now she would transform that music into Morse code. The instructors were amazed. This delicate Indian princess became the fastest Morse operator in her class. 25 words per minute. Flawless. While others struggled with 10 or 15 words, Noor's fingers flew across the keys like she was playing her beloved harp. She had found her instrument of war. In the autumn of 1942, a mysterious man came to visit her, Selwyn Jepson, from the Special Operations Executive, the SOE, Churchill's secret army. Princess Khan, he said, using her real title. Would you like to return to France? Noor's heart stopped. Occupied France. The Gestapo. Torture. Death. What would I do? She asked. Work as a radio operator. For the resistance. It's the most dangerous job we have. The average life expectancy, 6 weeks. 6 weeks. She would leave her safe job in London for almost certain death. Jepson later testified about that moment. He said her face went completely still. For 30 seconds, she didn't move, didn't blink. Then she smiled and said one word. Yes. That night, Noor wrote to her mother, Dearest mother, some things are more important than death. Freedom is one of them. Honor is another. If I don't return, know that I lived for principles. And I died for them. February 1943. The Scottish Highlands. Special training camp at Arisaig. Noor became Nora Baker there. Codename Madeline. The instructors were worried. Their reports said she was too sensitive, too emotional, shouldn't be sent to the field. Her hands trembled during weapons training. She lost every hand-to-hand combat session. She fainted during parachute training. But nobody saw the steel will inside her. Nobody understood that an Indian princess carried a fire that couldn't be extinguished. She learned invisible ink techniques, encryption methods, identity changes, interrogation resistance, and most importantly, how to withstand torture. The instructor asked her, What will you do if you're captured? I'll stay silent. What if they torture you? I'll stay silent. What if they threaten to kill your friends? Noor's eyes darkened. I'm already dead. A dead person doesn't speak. The final assessment from training camp was damning. Not suitable for field work. Too emotional. Will crack under pressure. The report recommended she be kept in Britain. But someone higher up overruled it. Someone who saw what the instructors missed. Vera Atkins, the Romanian-born intelligence officer who recruited women for the SOE, fought for Noor. She has something the others don't, Vera argued. An absolute sense of duty. She won't break because she can't break. It's not in her nature. June 16, 1943, 2:30 a.m. A bomber descended over France. Noor checked her parachute straps one last time. In her hand, a small suitcase. Inside, a radio transmitter. The only link between London and the resistance. The pilot turned his head and shouted, Now. Noor threw herself into the void, into the darkness, into Nazi-occupied France, into death. She landed in a field near Angers. The silence was complete, too complete. She buried her parachute and made her way to the train station. Her false identity was ready. Jean-Marie Renier, a children's governess. She boarded the first train to Paris. 2 German officers sat in her compartment. One looked at her and smiled, asking in French, Going to Paris, mademoiselle? Noor smiled back. Yes, to work as a governess for a new family. The officer nodded. Be careful. Paris is experiencing dangerous days. When she arrived in Paris, the city was unrecognizable. Nazi flags everywhere. German soldiers on every corner. She went to the meeting point at Café de Flore. The password. Any news from my cousin Marie? The counter password. Marie got married last week. But no one came. She waited an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. Finally, a man approached. He gave the wrong password. Noor stood up and left. She was being followed. For 3 days, she wandered the streets of Paris. She couldn't make contact with the resistance. Finally, she went to the second meeting point, a small grocery store in Port Maillot. She entered. The old grocer looked at her. Any news from my cousin Marie? The man's face changed. Marie got married last week. Go upstairs. In the attic, they were waiting for her. Henry Gary, leader of the cinema network. The man was pale and exhausted. Madeline, you've come just in time, but I have bad news. The Prosper network has fallen. Hundreds have been arrested. You're our last radio operator. The last radio operator. In Paris. The only link between the entire northern French resistance and London. Noor took a deep breath. I'll set up my transmitter. I start broadcasting tonight. She sent her first message on June 20th. Madeline safe. Prosper fallen. Urgent reinforcement needed. The reply from London was immediate. Return immediately. Repeat. Return immediately. Noor responded with 2 words. Negative. Continuing mission. Gary shouted at her. You're insane. The Gestapo is looking for you everywhere. You're the only female radio operator. You're too easy to identify. Noor replied calmly. Then I won't be recognized. She began changing her hair color daily. Wigs. Dye. Makeup. Every day. Different clothes. Rich woman. Poor student. Old aunt. Young worker. Every day a different identity. And every night, broadcasting from a different location. One night, she transmitted from the roof of the Renault factory. She reported the number of German aircraft engines. The next night, from a barge on the Seine, coordinates of German checkpoints on bridges. The third night, from a boarding house near Notre Dame, the new SS headquarters address in Paris. The Gestapo was going insane. Radio detection vans combed through all of Paris. But Noor was always one step ahead. She shortened her transmission times. She constantly changed locations. She started hanging her antenna through chimney openings instead of windows. By the end of July, all her colleagues had been captured. Gary, Emile, Suzanne, Gilbert. All of them were being tortured at Avenue Foch, Gestapo headquarters. Noor was completely alone. London sent the same message every day. Return. We'll extract you. Noor's answer was always the same. Negative. She wasn't just maintaining radio contact anymore. She was the entire network. In August, London sent new agents. Noor met them at various drop points. She found safe houses. She arranged false identities. She distributed weapons and money. By day, she was an organizer. By night, a radio operator. 3 hours of sleep. Sometimes, no sleep at all. Just duty. In September, the miracle happened. 3 months without capture. In a job where the average life expectancy was 6 weeks, she had survived 12. A message came from London. Madeline, you are a heroine. France is grateful. But in early October, she made a mistake. One mistake. A fatal one. Renee was Henri Gary's sister. She worked for the resistance. Or so everyone thought. Noor trusted her. She arranged a meeting. October 13th, 1943. 2 p.m. An apartment on the corner of Avenue Foch. As Noor climbed the stairs, she felt something was wrong. Her Sufi training had taught her to listen to her instincts, but it was too late. The door opened. Renee wasn't there. Instead, SS Sturmbannführer Hans Kiefer stood waiting. Behind him, 4 Gestapo agents. "Princess Khan," Kiefer said, "we've been expecting you." Renee had betrayed her. A French woman had sold her country for money. 30,000 francs. The price of a human life. They took Noor to 84 Avenue Foch, Gestapo headquarters in Paris. Kiefer interrogated her. "Give us your codes. We'll communicate with London in your name." Noor remained silent. "Give us your colleagues' names." "Silence. Cooperate. We'll treat you well." For the first time, Noor spoke. One word. "No." That night, the torture began. Electricity, water, beatings. Noor didn't say a single word. Kiefer was baffled. How could this delicate girl endure so much? What he didn't know was that Noor was already dead. In her own words, "And the dead feel no pain." On the 5th day, Noor tried to escape through the bathroom window. She tied sheets together. She hung from the 4th floor. She almost succeeded. At the last moment, she was caught. Kiefer was furious. "I'm sending you to Germany, to Pforzheim prison." November 25th, 1943. Noor was transferred to Pforzheim in chains. Cell number 1. Category: Nacht und Nebel. Night and fog. For the most dangerous prisoners. Isolation. Darkness. Silence. 10 months. 10 months in a 3-square-meter cell. Hands and feet chained. 1 bowl of water a day. 1 piece of bread. Speaking forbidden. Moving forbidden. Even existing seemed forbidden. But Noor's spirit was free. She practiced the meditations her father had taught her. She composed music in her mind. She wrote stories with invisible ink on imaginary paper. Guard Wilhelm Sower later testified, "I never saw her cry. She was always smiling, as if she was somewhere else." September 11th, 1944. 3 female prisoners were taken from Pforzheim. Noor Inayat Khan, Yolande Beekman, Eliane Pluman. All 3 were SOE agents. All 3 were being sent to Dachau. September 12th, 1944. Midnight. Dachau concentration camp. Sessrottenführer, Friedrich Wilhelm Ruppert, took the 3 women behind the crematorium. He ordered them to kneel. Witness Christian Ott's testimony. The Indian-looking woman didn't kneel. She stood. The German officer hit her. She stood up again. He hit her again. She stood up again. Finally, he pulled out his gun. Noor's last word was a single word. In French. Strong. Clear. Defiant. Liberté. Freedom. The gunshot echoed at 12:17 a.m. Noor Inayat Khan was 30 years old. Her father had said the meaning of life isn't how long you live, but how you live. Noor had lived a short but honorable life. In 1946, Hans Kiefer was captured. At his war crimes trial, he testified, "Noor Inayat Khan was the bravest person I ever met. Man or woman, German or enemy. She was an enemy, but I respect her." In 1949, Britain awarded Noor the George Cross, the highest civilian award for courage. In 1952, France awarded her the Croix de Guerre. In 2012, a statue was erected in London. The first Muslim woman to be honored with a statue in Britain. But perhaps the most meaningful honor came from a small French girl. In 1946, a letter arrived for Noor's family. "My mother is alive because of Noor. My father is alive because of Noor. I was born because of Noor. Every night I pray for her. The princess, who couldn't kill an ant, had saved thousands of lives. The pacifist had become a warrior. The children's storyteller had written her own legend in blood and sacrifice. Some people leave footprints in sand, others leave them in concrete. Noor Inayat Khan left hers in the hearts of every person who values freedom over life itself. Her radio is now in a museum, silent. But if you listen carefully, you can still hear the ghost of Morse code. Dot dash dot. The rhythm of resistance. The music of courage. The last transmission of a princess who chose to die standing rather than live kneeling. In the end, the Nazis could chain her body. They could silence her radio. They could take her life. But they could never break her spirit. They could never make her betray her friends. They could never make her kneel. Because Noor Inayat Khan was more than a woman, more than a spy, more than a princess. She was the embodiment of a principle. That freedom is worth any price. That honor is worth any suffering. That some things are worth dying for. And in dying for them, you become immortal.